right, welcome to Sold Out Podcast. I'm Brian DeAngelis.
I am Eric Hoffman.
It's our first ever episode. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you'll see me socially distancing from Eric, who will be here once the pandemic's over. But right now he's in his house. How's your house going over there?
House is good, pretty quiet. Baby here, hanging out, hopefully falling asleep. But it's how we have to roll for the time being until we get back to normal.
Yeah, so you have a new baby. I have 2 kids, 4 and 2, and another one in like 2 weeks.
Or tomorrow.
So it's an interesting time to have a young one or to have a new one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a very weird thing. I mean, obviously, for me personally, it's been, cool to be able to be home with her instead of her having to be in daycare at 3-4 months old. And so that's been really cool. I'm sure with your kids, it's been a little different, probably more like running a prison, but...
Yeah, it's all right. With the wife being home, I don't have too many responsibilities outside of work, which is nice. But you can see this is gonna be our studio, so we're in my office, but this is gonna be where we record for all of our episodes going forward. I did take the liberty of saving your seat, since I know you can't be here right now. I invited a guest over here, Le'Veon Bell. So I have a Le'Veon Bell jersey, and he's going to be holding onto your seat for you, keeping it warm until you can join us. So I just showed that to all the folks on YouTube. Any thoughts?
No, probably you'll average about 8 touches a year in New York next year, and that's about it.
I mean, he's a Hall of Fame running back, and he's the best running back to come out of the Big Ten in the last 50 years.
Well, I think there's a man in New York in the other side of New York that might have something to say about that.
That hasn't done anything yet, but we'll see. I'm sure it's just that he has a bad offense around him. I'm sure that's the issue.
Listen, I'm not here to argue about Saquon Barkley.
We'll see about that. Anyway, so the point of this podcast is we're going to talk about issues that we think are important, probably predominantly revolving around sports. Obviously, we both work in sports, so that consumes a large portion of our lives, not only professionally, but then personally. And what we plan to do, this first episode being during the pandemic, makes it a little difficult, but what we plan to do is have me and Eric really discuss whatever we're going to talk about in the front half, and then have a special guest that we invite into the second half. And we have a guest list lined up already that we've gone back and forth on, kind of who should be first, who should be second, that I personally am pretty excited about, and I think will provide a lot of value to anyone listening or watching.
Yeah, I think people will be excited by who we're trying to get on, people that I've already talked to about getting on, and it's not going to be your typical guest list. Like Brian said, we're going to be looking to stay in sports. We're going to branch out of sports. We're going to get more people in sports that you might not have thought of in the past or you might not know of, but have very interesting stories and offer a lot of great information for anyone in sports, looking to get in sports, looking to make that next step, or looking just to be entertained by something they're interested in. So,
well, I mean, I think right now, all we can talk about, or at least start to talk about, is, this morning, the Sports Illustrated article came out. And obviously we live in the baseball world where there's more questions than there are answers. But it really outlines some specific teams and some specific issues that each team is dealing with right now. And obviously they're all different. We've both worked at different levels, and so we know some of those challenges or differences they may have. But it was interesting to see it laid out like that. I mean, how many times do you even see minor league baseball in Sports Illustrated, let alone on the cover?
Yeah, I was pretty blown away. Actually, a friend of mine had sent me an Instagram DM with it early this morning, and I was pretty caught off guard just seeing it. I mean, shout out Altoona Curve for being on the cover there, but just really wasn't expecting that. Didn't know it was happening, and to be honest, I think we talked about this a little bit. It was a pretty extensive article. I mean, it was a long read. But a lot of information in there and a lot of stuff that, we talk about every day. People in the industry and all sports are talking about, specifically minor league baseball. But a lot of stuff that now is kind of coming to light, but not beyond COVID, but also with the MLB, MILB feud going on right now, I guess you could say. So a lot of stuff in there that'll kind of take away from.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that popped out to me right away, I was looking at it and I'm like, did they, like, how did they get that photo for the cover? Like, did Altoona submit that? Did they Photoshop that out of, like, an on-field contest where he lost a race? It's weird if, like, what the story is going to be and what it's about, that you just, like, kind of set up a photo shoot about it. And obviously they were in the article as well. I think even Lozniak was quoted in there, one of the owners.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely was.
Yeah, so
a lot of interesting things in there. And to be honest, I'm surprised they got that many people to go on the record in an interview. It's not something you see in minor league baseball very often, especially right now. But that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's cool stuff going on, like event-wise. There's a lot of people. I mean, obviously, it's different in every state. Like, you're in Florida. I mean, there's teams in Florida that are hosting movie nights like tomorrow. And there's teams in the South right now that are going back to work. Like Tuesday, they're going to be in the office as if nothing happened. And then you got, Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, kind of in our world. And it's like we can't even conceive when that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's weird when you go on, even if you go on social and you see people at other teams or just other places that are out and just, yeah, like you said, working in the stadium, working in their place, or doing whatever, doing normal things, going out to eat. And, we're kind of in a different world in the Northeast. And it'll be very interesting to see. And I think that's one thing to look at, too, from a Major League Baseball perspective. If they plan to play, and even if it's in empty stadiums, it's a different world traveling around in the Northeast compared to the South or out, especially in the Midwest, where it's almost non-existent. So that'll be something to look at, too, headed forward here, as they hope to get this deal done next week after, who knows? Yeah,
there's so many variables. I know I get asked, I'm sure a lot of people do, but what's the big deal? Play with no fans, play with one person per section. There's a million ideas out there, and again, it's hard to make a rule if you're Major League Baseball or if you're minor league baseball that's going to apply to everyone and apply fairly to everyone, because the situation we're in is going to be very different than the situation that Batavia is in or Lynchburg is in. You can't do, and then you look at travel, and we know. There's a lot of these guys have families. There's wives. There's kids. What do? They don't come, or you allow them in. You got front office staff. A lot of times people forget some of that front office staff comes in contact with the players. They get mail. You're not supposed to touch the mail or leave cardboard for 3 hours or whatever. There's so many, and all those things are being dictated a lot of times at a state level. So as soon as you travel outside of the state, which, we're in the international league, not that we travel internationally now, but there's multiple states. Yeah, maybe. There's multiple states at play, down to Georgia. Georgia's wide open, and they're in the IL.
Yeah, and a lot of things that people aren't even considering is, obviously minor league baseball without fans is basically impossible for us to operate. You going back to that article in Sports Illustrated, there's a lot of teams that are just they might just phase out because they can't afford, whether it's not right now, but it could be next year when teams are going to have a lot of issues. But, even from a fan perspective, if we do have fans in the stadium, we can't get them on the field anymore, probably. We can't get them down close to the players, which is a big part of what we do. Those experiences that a lot of people are able to give, it's not going to happen. And if you look at the NBA, you can say goodbye to courtside seats. You can even beyond courtside, just down low in that level. They're not going to have people down there, and that's going to really change the game for a lot of teams and a lot of sports.
The NBA is the craziest because you have so much close proximity access to all the players. Even the video I saw just trending around, even if I think it was on TikTok or Instagram, I saw it where they're taking the towel off the guy as he goes into the locker room. Even the people that are sitting on the corner seats by the entrances and stuff. Plus those staffs. Our staff to run a game is going to be 200, 250 people. Any one of those people has a legitimate chance to come in contact with a player. I remember we're standing at the gates. Right? I don't even know what we're doing. We're standing at the gates getting ready for something, and Clint Frazier walks in. Clint
Frazier comes rolling through, yeah.
And he's like, hey, how do I get to the field? And we're like, what are you doing at the main entrance? That could happen anywhere and everywhere, and all of a sudden it's if you got to take someone's temperature, or you got to log every person they came in contact with, there's no way you could do that. And then you look at the dependencies on revenue. Like, all right, MLB is so media deal heavy that it makes a little bit of sense. And even still, they're trying to figure out how that's going to work. But for us, I mean, we have a media deal, but I don't know, maybe 20 teams, 30 teams have a media deal of some capacity.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more. I don't know, but it's not 160.
No, not at all. No. And that's going to be a huge issue. I mean, and going back to the NBA thing, I mean, think about with the Last Dance happening right now, like the iconic plays of like Rodman flying into the crowd, saving a ball, like that kind of stuff's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, really weird. But yeah, I mean, teams aren't going to be able to, they're not going to be able to survive. They're not going to be able to make money. And yeah, teams are doing cool things, us included, are doing, outside of the box things, whether that's, a character drive-by or a fireworks show. And, depending on where you are, like we talked about, it's a lot easier to do events, but it's just, that revenue is not going to be the same. People I know Major League Baseball is talking about losing $600,000 a game and things like that. But I mean, they can still fall back on those media deals. I mean, what are the Phillies? I think the Phillies media deal with Comcast was $2 billion or something like that. Like they can survive. They can make it for the time being. Minor league baseball teams are not going to be able to do that.
Well, forget all that. Everybody's talking about how horrible it is. I'm looking at, all right, here we're sitting here. We've talked about this podcast for like what, a year, 2 years?
Dude, longer than a year, probably a year and a half.
2 years. And obviously we collectively are not geniuses. I mean, I am, but we collectively are not. So it took us a while to like figure it out, even just how to like set it up, right? And do this remotely and have guests come on.
You're definitely a genius in one man's opinion.
At least one. That's definitely true. But my point is that, we've taken this opportunity where, I cut an hour and a half commute out of my day and I don't have 70 games and how many events that I'm working. And here we are actually getting the podcast off the ground. So there's a positive that came out of it, right? Silver lining. What else do you think you're going to see that's going to positively impact a sports fan that's going to become of this? Because it's going to be a while before they can go to a game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to push people to think outside of the box. One thing that came out earlier this week or last week was who acquired the VR? Was it Apple?
Apple bought Next VR.
Yeah, so that's going to, I mean, right there, like that's going to change the game. If we're talking in a hypothetical scenario, NFL with no fans, like that's going to be a huge thing. Or NBA with no fans, like you can tap into VR. I know we always had VR. We had those capabilities, the Masters and NBA and things like that. But like that's going to really change everything. That's something that's going to be cool and it's going to be different. And that's one thing that could come out of this. I mean, what were some things that you were thinking about that could probably change the game?
I love the VR stuff. I mean, think about like that. So Next VR, that's who broadcasts the NBA games already.
Yeah.
And so if you have League Pass, you can hop on there on any VR device and you can sit courtside. You can pick your seat and you get your own broadcast in there. So like, if that means that now Apple users, or maybe it's like Apple TV subscribers, like I don't know what their model is going to be, but now you can just watch like any sporting event through Next VR, and you can like throw your phone. Remember the old Samsungs? You could like throw your phone into VR, and then you could just like have one or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where it's going to go or what they're going to do with this, but it's for that big of a player to take notice of it is crazy. I think that it's gonna force. It's like anything catastrophic. It's gonna force people to adapt, and then I just think that naturally people are going to get better at everything that they do, which is going to just make all the products better. I'm hoping for those like independent, like those one-off things like VR you said, but I know that the quality of everything is going to improve. Like if you're a sports team right now and you don't have anything going on and you haven't figured out ways to entertain your fans without your actual events, then you're dying. And the teams that are doing it, like I know everybody's streaming the show right now. That's just a different.
What do you think about what do you think about esports in general? I know obviously you've been always a big fan of streaming, and you were ahead more so than most of us on Twitch and just esports in general. Obviously now they're kind of taking over. Twitch is up, 7% streaming or whatever. And what do you think that impact will be in the short term and even in the long term?
Yeah, people have been sleeping on esports, and one problem that they really just started getting going in the live event side. So like they had the Fortnite Solo World Cups in New York. They've had a lot of events like in Houston and areas it's big, and they started drawing crowds and like selling out. They were offering like 3-day packs, and they were selling out the arenas they were in. Philadelphia, near us, they're building the first ever new construction esports arena. Like the rest of them are just taking over an old space or whatever. New construction, already have sponsorship deals lined up. They already have professional teams lined up. Like the Houston Rockets own a team, Sixers are owning a team. There's major backing, and now you look at Amazon buys Twitch, Microsoft owns Mixer. The biggest players in software now own the platforms where everyone consumes the media, and then you start looking at the individual players that went out. The biggest entertainment face in esports was Ninja, who went and signed a deal with Mixer, which was unheard of at the time. Now all of a sudden everybody's, YouTube signed it up, and now Facebook launched a gaming streaming service. So now where you started to see people just like place their bits and pieces, they're all like grabbing at the share, because these numbers are ridiculous. I mean, they were growing anyways, but now with quarantine, I mean, you look at like a TikTok, you look at any of the streaming services, all those things are just exploding, and it's nuts. And if I'm a business now, I have to get in on all those things early before it's too expensive, because then all your big guys are going to eat them up. I mean, when I'm already talking about Amazon and Microsoft are in the space, you're probably too late. But some of these lower level or mid level guys, I mean, that's an opportunity, and people don't even understand what that, like they say the Rockets own a team. No one knows what that means. They're like, so what? Do Houston Rockets play NBA 2K? And even, we're guilty of this. We play the show, and a lot of the MLB teams are doing that. But that's not what they're doing. They have full-time employees on staff that all they do is play video games professionally, and it's specific to a team. So they're playing like Overwatch. Like they pay someone a salary and benefits to play on a team of only competing in Overwatch, and they sell events.
So like the NBA teams even have guys playing Overwatch and Fortnite?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so
Overwatch
like
is huge.
I was always a little confused by that, because I know like for example, if you go on like the Sixers website for their esports team, it just shows you like there's like the starting 5 or whatever, right? And there's like articles about that. So I was always a little confused on, do these teams just oversee it as like a brand and they all play all games, or are they just strictly on 2K or?
Yeah, it's well, so it's a little bit of both, right? But each player independently. So, and we're also talking about two different things. You're talking about like the competitive space, which is where these teams, you have an Overwatch team, they just go and compete. That's all they do. They're playing in tournaments, whether it's online or in person, and they're just competing and they're trying to get better, and there's world ranks and so on. And then you have like the entertainment side, where it's like if you ask the average 40-year-old, you say, who's the best video game player? They would probably all say Ninja, right? Because they saw him on the cover of ESPN or whatever. He's not the best player. He's not ranked in any game right now. And he bounces around, whether it's Valorant or Fortnite or Call of Duty, like you name it. He bounces around and plays it. He's out there to entertain people. I mean, he's basically a broadcaster. He's an entertainment company, entertainment brand. And that's where all these guys you hear of, that's where they're coming to the forefront. But then there's also this other side of competitive, where teams are still investing in growing brands because they're accumulating fans. Like now this guy that was never a fan of the Houston Rockets or basketball, he's now a fan of, been a fan of Overwatch, and now he's a fan of their Overwatch team. Now they have his data, and data's king. They can do anything they want with that. So it's crazy. The people that are buying in this space, I mean, it's going to become, like, there was a stat I read too where it's like the rate that kids aren't playing Little League and like soccer and whatever versus the rate that they're like playing, and not just playing like me and you played Tony Hawk, like they're playing all the time. Like they get home, it's their job. Like they're not doing homework, they're just playing. And people joke about it, and these kids are going pro.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was actually talking to a friend of mine that's a teacher, and he was saying how, a lot of these kids seem like they don't care. And I was like, you know what? I was thinking, these kids, a lot of them don't care. Every generation has kids that seem like they don't care. They're lazy. They play games. But these kids are smart enough to take something that we like to do for fun and monetize it and make themselves millionaires at 12, which is insane. And another thing too with Twitch growing, and myself, I never was on Twitch. I was never watching video streams. And there's a lot of people like me. We're very different when it comes to gaming. You play all kind of shooters and things like that. I mostly play sports games, and I found myself on Twitch watching Big Cat play NCAA 14 all the time. and texting friends about it and staying up to date on it. And I never thought I would do that. I mean, that's a product of there not being any sports, definitely. But I think that there's a demographic of people that maybe never, considered going on the Twitch or watching games that maybe will do that now. It's only going to help everything grow.
That's what it's about. It's growth, right? So you happen to be a fan of Big Cat before, and now you're watching him on that, right? And there's going to be people that go the other way where they're like, oh, I was just a fan of NCAA football. I didn't even know who Big Cat is, and now all of a sudden I'm in the Barstool family and I follow all their stuff, right? I don't remember what it was for me that like turned me on to Barstool, because like at first I wasn't on it. I was like, I don't know, 2015 maybe. I started like, I'll check it out, and like most people I knew were already big Barstool fans. So it's all about like how do you acquire those fans? I mean, that's the business that we're in, right? Acquiring those fans. But here's an interesting take, though. I saw this on Twitter like last week, I think, and I even commented on it. But somebody put like, hey, have you guys ever stopped to think about how privileged of a sport esports is? And I was like, obviously no. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I mean, a console for some people, like we're talking about, you make that argument about sports and you say, oh, tennis is privileged, right? Because you got to like have the country club access, or you got to have access to a pool and swimming, or like whatever, right? I mean, but the get-in price for video games is like a $500, $600 system plus the games. And then if you actually want to be serious and you want to stream, I mean, your gaming setup is going to be $6,000. Like how many kids or how many parents are going to pay $6,000 for their kids to play video games, and not only play video games, now they're going to play them even more because they're going to be streaming.
Yeah, that's a tough ask.
I never thought of it. And
there's not a lot of kids out there that can be able to do that. I mean, it's just not feasible, and like you said, it's the perception too. Most parents, over time they may, if you're looking at kids that are playing Little League, and this from your Ripken days, how much money they're spending on hotels, how much money they're spending on those tournaments, being on the teams, gear, equipment, all that kind of stuff. You're spending well over $6,000 in a lifetime, but it's a different perception. You know what I mean? You're working towards be on the high school team and then a college scholarship or whatever. But playing a video game, while I know there are schools out there now offering scholarships, they're few and far between. So it's definitely a different world.
More and more, though. Like Lehigh has one, Kutztown has one.
Oh, it's going to be more and more, too. I mean, they want to tap into everything that's popular, too. I mean, why not, right? Get kids at your school. That's what the name of the game is. It's a business like anything else.
It's a bigger business than most. So people forget. Well, anyway, enough about esports. I think, what were we talking about before? What changes we saw? Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, what do you think? What is something that's going to come out of all this that you think could make a positive impact?
I think that you got to look to draw. Everybody's looking to draw new fans, but I think one of the ways that makes sense is I think people are just starting to have the idea of different ways they can reach new fans, and the amount of people, like all the stuff we just talked about, whether it's esports, TikTok, you name it. They're starting to think that way. So I'm not saying those are the answers, but they're starting to think that way. So now I think they're going to start to look at their own product, and they're going to say, okay, what can we do with our own product that's going to just like naturally occur, that's going to attract more fans? So when you look at like professional lacrosse, I don't know anything about lacrosse. Despite living in Maryland, I still don't know anything about it. But I do know that they do an amazing job at marketing their players and giving access. You saw with the XFL a little bit when they would do the sideline interviews, right? But before that, they have like every lacrosse player, he's mic'd up every game, the whole game. And they do interviews like that. They have player access like crazy. Imagine if they mic'd up every player all the time in MLB.
It's so easy. I mean, they do it in the All-Star game, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. They hear Mike Trout, just talk, especially in the interviews in game. Like, that stuff's awesome. But, like, if you mic'd up every player and you charge $9.99 a month to go on and be able to access this app to, like, tap into that player, and like, everybody would do that. Everybody that's a fan. Like, they would do that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff.
It's a no-brainer.
Especially baseball. And this is really the difference. I think you're now more on my side than you were before, maybe. But baseball has the biggest problem of anybody, that there's no individuals.
I know where you're going with this.
There's no individuals. There isn't. And that's what makes the game terrible.
No, there's not. There's a few. But
yeah, but I mean,
they don't want to do it.
It used to be.
They don't want to market them. there's more personalities.
No,
the
there
game
was not more personalities. There's no way that's the case. And now, first of all,
you don't think so? Back in the day, when you had like the Red Sox were in their like the early 2000s, you had Manny and Poppy and Nomar and like those guys. The Yankees were always stacked with talent, and the Yankees still are. But like, I don't know, baseball. I think we both agree baseball doesn't do a good job of marketing their players. But at the same time, and this is being a dead horse at this point. If Mike Trout doesn't want to do pub, he's not going to do it. I don't know if you saw the interview Bryce did on Starting Nine on Barstool, but he said he thinks a way to do really engage everybody is get the players involved in the Olympics and stop the season the next time the Olympics go around and actually have the players go to their home country. I mean, that would be incredible. I mean, you have stacked Dominican teams, stacked Puerto Rico, Japan would be stacked, obviously USA. Like, these teams would be crazy to watch. And I mean, to see, like, he mentioned specifically, like, to see Ohtani versus Trout, like, that would be awesome. People would want to see that, and everybody tunes into the Olympics. Like, how many times you tune into, whether it's just some off-the-wall sport, whether it's fencing or something like that, like, just to tune in.
Yeah, I don't know how that would go. Here, the biggest problem is, like, the easy relation is the dream team. But in reality, like, you don't know who they're playing against. Like, they're just playing against another country. You don't know any of those guys. So, like, to me, as a basketball fan, I just want to see my team win, but I don't really care about any of the other stuff. Now, baseball,
that's why baseball is so different.
It is, but they already have the World Baseball Classic and nobody cares.
Yeah, but I think the Olympics are different. Like,
they are different.
I mean, like, I don't care about the World Baseball Classic. I would watch the games, but, like, when they had the DR Puerto Rico game, that was elite. That was an electric game. Playing in Miami, the crowd was insane. That was like a college football atmosphere. Like, that was cool to see those guys. And we're talking like top level talent. Basketball can never replicate it because there's just not enough talent elsewhere.
Yeah, but there's been glimpses.
I don't know if it's the answer, but I think it could help.
Like, I mean, there's others, like hockey does this, right? And you have like Russia and you have Canada that has like a share of the talent, and like granted, hockey's
they stopped the league, right?
Yeah, but
exactly.
But hockey is not as big, so it's hard to compare to basketball directly. But like let's just say you got three major countries that make up like 70% of all the players, right? So if any of those players square off. And then you're going to have one superstar here or there, whatever, right? But there's been years like that in basketball where, like, Spain has been really good because they had the Gasols and, like, Ricky Rubio. And you knew, like, who their starting five was. And then they would play the U.S. Or then they would play, like, Argentina, who had, like, Ginobili and these guys. So, I'm a basketball guy, and I'm not tuning in to see Spain-Argentina. I still don't care. Like, I don't know that anybody's going to tune in and just watch, like, Japan play Korea. I don't know.
I think what Bryce was trying to say was people would probably tune in that aren't baseball fans just because it's the Olympics.
Yes, they will, obviously, and because it's new. But I think what they need to do is they need to make the players superstars first, and then there's a reason to watch it. Because the only reason I even know that Argentina has players or Spain has players is because they make those guys superstars. Like, it's a big deal that Ricky Rubio's coming, or the Gasol story, right? I already know that, so then I'm like, oh yeah, Spain, that's who's playing for them. I guess I'll watch. Whereas right now, like, if I'm a little bit more knowledgeable, I guess, than a non-casual baseball fan, like if I knew nothing. But if I know nothing right now about baseball, I'm not necessarily a baseball fan, I'm not going to know any of these guys. I don't know who Tani is.
Yeah.
I couldn't name
That's
one
true.
Puerto Rican, one Dominican player. Like, I'm not going to care. So they're going to have to blow them up first.
I think it stems all back to, I mean, look at the NBA. They do as good of a job as anybody, right?
Yeah.
Of promoting players. I think a huge part of that is the network TV deals they have, where it's Tuesday night and you're going to have Giannis on, and it's Wednesday night and now, it's the Rockets. And like these teams get national TV every night. And the MLB is so regional. It's just, you can't watch. If you live on the West Coast, you can't watch Aaron Judge play. Or if you live in New York and you're 10 years old and you want to watch Mike Trout play, even if you have MLB extra innings or whatever, like, you're not going to be able to watch it because it's starting at 10 o'clock. That's...
Yeah, but if they would market them as
thing.
Superstars, and you would take the clips of Mike Trout, and you'd have him, smashing a bomb, and then he's on TikTok the next day doing an interview as he's running around the bases. Now that kid saw it. And he's going to be a Trout fan.
And And the thing is, they're doing the opposite. You know, MLB has people going on Twitter taking down GIFs, like,
Yeah.
so like that's not going to help.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know. I mean, obviously, like we're talking like two fans, but then we also know the other side of it that's so much larger. It just can't happen overnight, obviously. But I'll tell you one thing:
No,
if they play, what is it like? They're proposing a 40-game season. Is that what it is?
I think they want to do an 80-game season.
80-game season
is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 80 games. All right, so you're basically talking about the NBA. You remember this, first of all, this is a genius idea that I had. You hate it, and I haven't found anybody else that likes it. But now we'll know. All the listeners can decide.
Sure.
Comment underneath what you think. So
Sure.
I said this originally, and I realized take our job implications out of this, because obviously there's going to be some other factors. But you take the AAA teams, and they have them join the major league teams at their home facility. All right. Mm-hmm. So now the Iron Pigs team, they play at Citizens Bank Park, and then you can have the same length of season, but you're only going to have the MLB guys play 80 games, and the AAA guys are going to play on the other games. So the only reason for this, I mean, you're going to save a lot of money, travel and games and things, and one less affiliate, right? But then all of a sudden you get to see these pitchers throw. Instead of taking 5 days rest, they're taking like 3 games in between, right?
Yeah.
So now you get to see those guys. Like, I just don't who's the 5th guy on the Phils rotation right now?
Sheesh.
Okay, you don't know, and you're a big Phils fan.
Probably Vinny Velasquez at this point.
Okay, great. That's my point. Like, it'd be hard pressed to find an NBA fan of a team who couldn't name the 5th starter. That's impossible, right? So I think now you're going to have those guys where you're going to see the 1, 2, and 3 guy at every team. They're going to be able to throw all the time, and you're going to see these guys like still be able to hit because they're getting as much rest too. And you're going to still be able to use the facility because you have these AAA teams there, and it makes sense with the teams traveling and having personnel there too. Like, all the behind the scenes stuff makes a ton of sense. So I think an 80-game season. Now, granted, they're going to condense it, so they're still going to have guys taking 5 days off, and they're still going to have a deep rotation with less games.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be your first glimpse. Like, 80 games. Do we like it more? Are people going to watch more? I think they will.
I think it's gonna be fun. I was always one of those guys that was like, oh no, the stats and baseball, you can't do it. But like ultimately, man, 80 games with adding 2 playoff teams, it's gonna be a race because the best team's not gonna win, but that makes it more fun.
So here's the question I saw today: did the Astros create a perfect opportunity for this season? Because
to cheat again?
Well, no. Well, okay. But if you're not even like a big fan, or even if you are, it doesn't matter. If you don't like the Astros, a lot of people are saying not a legitimate World Series, right? Now imagine if that never happened, and all of a sudden now you have this year, and the Yankees win. How many people would just be out there? Oh, not a legitimate World Series.
Oh, everybody, absolutely everybody.
But now you have not a legitimate World Series into this season, where people are gonna be like, not a legitimate World Series. Most likely they'll say that, right?
Back-to-back non-legitimate World Series.
But does that help? Does that make it better?
Does it make it better for the Astros? Probably.
Well, for the Astros, it does. I mean, for everybody. I think it helps baseball. Because you come off that season, like, everyone now forgot the whole Astros. Like, I was watching spring training games to see the guys get hit. And I don't care about the Astros at all. But I thought it was going to be entertaining, right? And I want to see the interviews. I want to see people's takes on whatever and why they did this or why they shoved them off the base path. I thought that was going to be great. And that's all been gone because of all this. But I think now it's going to be like, all right, we got this bootleg season. Maybe this will be the real World Series champ this condensed season.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to be something to watch. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see.
It's going to be the Pirates.
Bro, it's not going to be the Pirates. I got bad news for you. We already talked about this. Second half season, they might go winless.
But they don't know it's the second half. This is their first game. Through the first half of the season, they're a dominant franchise. And one of only 10 franchises
so they'll go
with
40
a winning
and 40.
record.
They do have, I mean, don't get me wrong, they have a long history of winning, just not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, salary cap. We can talk about that all day.
Salary cap would be the dream of all dreams for the Pirates.
It has to happen. It doesn't make any sense.
It's not going to happen.
But it makes...
They're not going to...
When you look at trying to, like, balance... Like, you want competition, right? That's what you want.
From a competition standpoint, it makes sense.
Well, what else? We're playing
But-
sports. What else is there?
Well, it's too late. The contracts have gotten out of hand. There's no way a players' association would ever agree to that unless they would have, I don't even know what kind of ridiculous terms. But like, there's no way that these guys are going to take less money to have more competitive, because like ultimately you can say what you want, but you want to get paid.
But they're not getting paid. They're not.
What do you mean right now?
Yeah, total. They're not getting paid total. Here's my point. My point is yeah, what you're saying is true, obviously, right? Because tomorrow, like, Bryce isn't going to want to go from $330 million to making $10 million. Obviously, no one would.
Yes.
But think about it long term. Has this model worked? You know, Bryce is making $330 million, and then Trout got his deal. Where are their names on the highest paid athletes list? They're not on there. No baseball players on there. They're not getting paid. If you were,
I mean, they're getting that fully guaranteed money though.
yeah, sure, okay, great. But LeBron made $1 billion off his own brand. Like, you have a LeBron in baseball right now. Like, Mike Trout is one of those guys that people will sit and argue and say, is he the greatest of all time? And you have that in LeBron. So in that case, they're equal in terms of their dominance in their sport. So they have an equal opportunity to go out being an athlete and capitalize and make a ton of money. And Mike Trout didn't, and LeBron did. And that's because of the individual brands. That's why I'm saying they need to do it. Because look, if you even tell the player that long term, so overall, sure, your bottom end players are not going to get paid as much. But you have an opportunity for those highest paid, or the biggest names in the game to make some money.
Yeah, but they're going to be making less money on the field.
Yeah, but that's all. That doesn't matter. They'll make
That's
money. It's
guaranteed cash that they're not giving up. I'm sorry, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, but if they're still getting media deals that large, the numbers would just be inflated higher then. They should still be able to get paid.
The cap would be astronomical. Like, they would have to make a ridiculous cap.
And the rev share
keep
would be higher.
players-
And that's really why it won't happen.
Yes, that is true as well.
The Yankees are never going to pay the Pirates.
No, never. No, it never will. No.
Even to save themselves, I don't think they would.
No, they would absolutely not. It's not. So, moot point.
It's your sport, man. I'm just trying to help you out.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Anytime you need advice, any baseball fans, if you need advice on how to save baseball, I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, he'll tell you how to kill it. All right, so Brian, what's one thing you saw this week that you thought was something, what was just that one thing that stuck out to you this week that a team did, or like that an organization did, or something, even outside of sports, what's just something that stuck in your head this week that was like, wow, that's really something cool, kind of going off what we talked about, pushing the envelope a little bit in a pandemic. Is there something that you saw that stuck out?
Man, what have I been watching recently? I mean, it's been... If I stay within minor league baseball...
Doesn't have to be. It could be really anything.
Yeah, well, I did like what Durham did a lot when they hopped on board with the Korean baseball league, because I mean, the whole thing with putting cardboard cutouts in the stands was funny to me. I'm sure it's funny to everybody. It was funny just for like an inside joke reasons too, but then when they started interacting and doing that kind of stuff, it was awesome. I don't know. I'm waiting to see we haven't. You sent me that video where the guys were on the beach in their Jeeps and they were just going nuts and pretending there was no pandemic, right?
Top stuff, man.
That's going to be at a sporting event at some point. Like, you're not going to tell me that Bill's Mafia is not going to be out there. Like, are they going to socially distance their tables that they jump into?
No.
Those tailgates are still going to be...
No, they're not.
And those college kids, like, can you imagine, like, Bama LSU? And you're going to be like,
I don't even want to
6
talk
feet.
about it, because if there's no college football, like...
There's no college
football. Just imagine you wake up and there's no college football on Saturday. There's no game day. There's no... It's just... I can't handle something like that.
I don't have to imagine it. That's what I did today. I woke up and there's no college football, and that's the world that we live in now.
But it's the summer.
It doesn't
I'm saying
matter.
in the fall, when you wake up that first weekend of September, last weekend of August, like, man, and there's just no college football.
It's going to be reality. And that's another thing people are forgetting the institution-wise, right? Everyone forgets, like, who's the first people to shut down when this all happened?
Yeah.
It was colleges. They sent all the kids home
100%.
well before spring break. They were like, nope, because they're cesspools. They know that, right? If you have a rampant viral disease, a college is the worst place to be. So they sent them out of there. So, like, people are forgetting. They're like, oh, it's football. It's so much money. List your reasons. Well, universities don't care. I mean, they're going to go, and there's some that have already cut programs. A lot of D2, I saw Bowling Green, Fulton, they cut their baseball teams already. There's going to be more and more that cut because for those teams that legitimately don't make a profit, and if they're going to be forced to play and they don't make a profit, there's no way they're doing it.
I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, at the same time, like you talk about a moneymaker, there's a lot of big programs out there that are really not going to want to hand back that donation money that they got for their football or, not have your revenue. And their media deals are, not as great. I mean, you're sharing, especially if you're in a major conference, your conference sharing. But, like, man, that's going to be tough. That's going to be really tough for those schools to just swallow that.
Yeah. I don't know how they're going to do it. And, I mean, in these schools, first of all, you're talking about the ones that actually make money from sports. Most of those schools are in the category that they didn't get to have March Madness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest media deal in college sports, and it just didn't happen. That's insane. Everybody's talking about Big Four and what's going to happen and all that, but, like, it's the biggest media deal in college sports. Didn't exist. And no one even said anything.
It seems like a lifetime ago.
I know, it was insane. It's 2 months ago. Less than 2 months. For Penn State fans, I mean, it's a while ago. Your season was over quite a while ago.
Dude, are you serious? Like, why are you doing this? They were in the tournament. Absolutely in the tournament.
Well, I mean, they weren't in the tournament. We'll never know.
They would have been. They were projected 6th seed.
Mm-hmm. That's a projection.
Dude, why you this is not the platform to hate on Penn State basketball. They did nothing to you.
Well, no. Penn State basketball program did nothing to me. Shout out Colella, product of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. But the fans, and I'm going to say the fans of Penn State football because I don't believe that there's fans of Penn State basketball.
I am a Penn State basketball fan.
No, you're not. And from the games that I've attended, which I guarantee you, I've attended more home Penn State basketball games than your average Penn State alum. And I can tell you...
That's probably true. I mean, nobody goes to the games.
Okay, well, what's a fan? You got to go to the game.
You can't just say there was fans.
Well, you asked me what they did to me. I'm telling you that
the
Penn State football fans did this, where they created this, oh my God, now it's the first time we're relevant, and we're actually going to make a run, or we're actually going to be good. And they just don't know how it works. They don't know what March is. They don't know what happens. You can't just think you're good because you played, some Pitt branch campus school, and then you went and you played some patty cake Big Ten games.
Dude, they played the same schedule as everybody. Listen,
nobody wants to hear this.
Nobody wants to hear this. In the conference, it is.
In the conference, sure, but they didn't go play Duke.
Dude, the entire the 10 people that downloaded this podcast just stopped it right now.
No, if they're Penn State fans, they're just getting enraged, which is what you want anyways. Penn State football fans, I should say.
We'll be back. Don't worry.
Okay. You'll climb. You'll climb on, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly.
Well, do you think there's going to be... Do you think there's going to be... All right, so football's not happening. I'm saying football's not happening. Do you think there's going to be sports for 2020, 2021? Do you think in the spring they're going to have sports? Do you think basketball will be back? Like, they start in the winter. That's a winter sport. Do you think that'll start?
Yes. Well, but what are the odds that college football gets moved to the spring?
I think it's good, and I think it would be better.
It would screw up a lot of things. It would change, it would really have a bigger impact on, a huge impact on 2021.
You know what? I don't know why I think of it this way, but basketball is going on at the same time, like NBA and college, and those are both premier sports products. And naturally, I always think about, I guess because it's so schedule regimented, Saturday is college and then you got Sunday. And it's not that way in basketball as much. So I guess it would be weird to play it at a different season.
It would just because you're you have that timeline that you follow. Season wraps up, then they're recruiting, then you have the spring game, then you have practice and camp start. It's going to be difficult, especially recruits coming in, what happens, you know what I mean? If you're an early enrollee in the spring, you can't play, or can you play? I don't know. It's going to be weird. It's going to have a big, but I mean, I think that if the school said, A, we could screw everything up and get our money, or B, we cannot have season, they're going to have the season.
Yeah. It's like,
and then we'll have a lot of fun. I know a lot of people on Twitter have pointed out, but can you imagine a world where we have college football and college basketball and the NBA and, you know, all these great events going on at the same time for probably the only time ever?
No.
And the Super Bowl and everything else?
No. It's too much.
It's hard to keep up. I agree. It's hard to keep up with all that, but I think it's great.
I always start to think like, and we're living in the polar opposite right now where there's no sports. But every time I get into it, I'm always thinking like there's too much going on, and like I start to hate Twitter. Like I can't just everything I see. Actually, it is pretty bad right now. The Last Dance, like I know on Sunday and on Monday, the whole day Monday too. All I'm gonna see is memes and like whatever. And it's just.
And you did not watch 9 and 10, did you? At this point, we're recording this on Tuesday night.
Right. So it aired Sunday. I've been a week behind on every one of them. And
so that's tough. In the world we live in, it's tough to not be up on The Last Dance and go on Twitter and Instagram.
It is, but I mean, I know what happens. Like, I know
it's
they
not.
won't, right?
It's not a yes.
I am personally, I'm a little offended that I wasn't featured in the program.
Sorry.
I mean, for
it was a long
that,
shot, but
well, I mean, not really. Everyone that's listening probably doesn't know, but I mean, I obviously just a phenom basketball player, former phenom. And went to deliver. Well, I was gonna say I went to Michael Jordan's basketball camp, but that's sort of true. I went to deliver a fan to my cousin who was at Michael Jordan's basketball camp, and he came rolling through like 100 miles an hour, pulled up with it. He had the Air MJ plate and everything, slammed on the brakes. He gets out, and it's just me, my dad, and my uncle there holding a box fan. We're like, oh my God, this is Michael Jordan. We're in Chicago, going to this
crazy.
camp. And so I go in, and he just goes in, picks up a ball and starts just like playing against kids and starts dunking on them and killing them. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, I knew at that moment that they were making a documentary, and I knew I was going to be in it. And then I watch it, and I wasn't in it. But anyway,
you didn't watch 9 and 10 yet.
I didn't watch 9 and 10, so I don't know for sure I'm not in it, but it's likely I'm not.
I didn't see you in it, but I wasn't looking for you either.
We'll have to review the tape. And I looked a little different. I was a little more fit. But man, now, I mean, you're not here now. You guys see me. I've been on this diet for like 8 days. I'm like a whole new human. I'm a superhuman.
In 8 days, wow.
I just never here's the problem. Let's talk about the American education system. No one ever told me anything. I didn't know.
As far as like health wise?
Yeah, health wise. And I mean, I never looked into it.
I think you were a lost cause.
Well, I ate McDonald's every day for 18 years.
Mountain Dews.
In Mountain Dews, yes. Not sponsored, but Mountain Dew is a lot of them. I don't know. I never thought about it. Now all of a sudden I think about it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so easy. Like if they would just teach kids this, like, hey, don't be an idiot. But it's all that big sugar money.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And I mean, I've actually cut down a little bit too. I think anybody listening to this that is in minor league baseball, really any sport can relate. Cutting out 2 post-game beers with no games certainly helps you cut down the calories.
2.
Well, a couple 2, 3.
You're averaging out. Are we up or down?
Flip side,
total booze.
What?
Do you think the country is up or down in booze consumed?
That's a big. I was talking about this with someone the other day. If you look at it, you think about it just on the surface, you're gonna say up because people are buying more. But no bars, no sporting events. There is a lot of places and you can't get booze. So is consumption up? I don't know. I maybe more people are drinking more often, but not as much. If that makes sense. Maybe some people. I know a lot of people are probably drinking 4 nights a week because there's nothing to do, but not necessarily going crazy. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a thing to say. Oh, I'm home, so I can just pop champagne at 10 a.m. and have it with my late breakfast because I slept all morning through my meeting, right?
It sounds like something you may have done.
No, I could never do that. I have a 2-year-old. So
True.
6:30 I'll be up. But I think that's what's said, and that's what you see in funny videos of people trying to make content and stuff. But for me, I mean, I cut it out. I had a bottle of champagne, and that's the only liquor I had total in all of quarantine. And I probably had I haven't had anything in 10 days total. And I had a couple of beers in the beginning, and I don't care. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose that. How many people say they're social drinkers, and there's no more social going on?
Well, yeah, you don't have the after, head to the bar for one after 5 o'clock, or like I said, post game have a beer. Like, you don't have that anymore for us. And a lot of people that have normal jobs, they're leaving the office at 5 and going out for a drink. That's not happening. I think the novelty of the Zoom call, having a couple beers on the Zoom call definitely wore off. I mean, I'm still doing it on the weekends, but it's not the same. And yeah, I mean, I'll have a couple of yard beers here and there, but
what's with the weather?
I would say I'm down.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm down in consumption.
I'm down for sure. And I mean, I'm down.
Let us know. Are you up? Or are you down?
Yeah, comment. Give us a thumbs up if you're up, and also give us a thumbs up if you're down, and we'll figure it out on the back end.
You should probably, if you're up or down, you can share it too.
I mean, and if you're listening to us 52 minutes or whatever it is into this podcast, and just give us a thumbs up anyways at this point. Make sure you share it.
Yeah.
But we said in the beginning of the podcast, we will not be going for an hour on any other podcast. I mean, unless the circumstances. Let's just say I crack nuclear fission. I'm going to probably talk about it a little bit longer than normal.
Sure.
But for the most part, we want to feature our guests because they probably have a lot more to say than us. At least a lot more intelligent and that people are interested in.
We're gonna have interviews. We're gonna have people on to give you a different perspective on the sports world and things of that nature. But we also want to be able to stay on topic and talk about what's going on in sports too, to give our opinion on that. And we're not going to be going for 52 minutes, so I can tell you that. So on that note, I think we need to probably wrap this up.
Yeah, I mean, closing questions. I have one that is I've been thinking about it now for about a month straight.
I have one for you too. So
all right, who's going first?
You can go first.
All right, I've been thinking about this for a month, and I need to know your answer, but I'm more interested in your explanation. What's your favorite shape?
My favorite shape. Oh my goodness. Is this like the old Amy Venuto shape game?
No, it's
not.
Is
that what we're doing?
No, it's not.
What's my favorite shape? I guess a circle.
Circle, okay. Why?
Just because the wheel, pretty big deal.
Are you claiming the wheel is the greatest invention of all time?
No, I'm not. But as far as shapes go,
is it hydraulics?
Some would say I worked with a man that once said that. Yes.
What do you think the greatest invention ever was?
Fire?
I don't think fire was an invention. It's naturally occurring. Saying like harnessing fire was the greatest invention. They had to figure out
how to do it. Okay, fair enough. I don't know off the top of my head what the greatest invention ever was. I don't know. What do you think it was? I'm sure you have something.
I mean, well, there's a couple of schools of thought on this. So there could be what has the greatest like residual effect. So if you start to look at like what's it called when you bring water in agriculture?
Booze?
Huh? Food? No. You like redirect water and then you can plant.
What did you say?
Like aqueducts.
Oh,
it's called something.
Yeah.
Irrigation.
Like,
irrigation could be
Roman. There you go.
But then you got to look at it like the internet, right? I mean, it's got to be the internet. There's never been a time ever. Well, depending on what you believe, there's never been a time ever in which humans knew everything. Like legitimately, you know everything, and obviously, wow. I mean, let's wait a second and I'll Google it and I'll figure it out. But like, you know everything. That never happened.
True. Yeah, internet's probably it.
All right, what's your question?
What is your favorite plant of the week?
Favorite plant? Well, this week, I'm actually looking over at my orange tree. He looks a little nutrient deficient right now.
It's not good.
And I don't know what to do about it.
Background: We're big plants guys. Office the office of Coca-Cola Park littered in plants. Great for the air. If you don't have plants in your house, get them in there. Purify that air. In your office, if you have an office with no windows, get some snake plants. They'll do the trick.
Or ZZ plants. I'm telling you, got to get a ZZ plant. I got one in my shower.
ZZ plants I've heard a lot about, yes.
It's been in there for like NASA did a study. The best purifier of air of all plants is a ZZ plant. That's not what it's called. That's like what people popularly call it. It's called something else, but it doesn't matter. I got an olive tree in here, I got an orange tree in here, I got mini jalapenos in here. I was just looking outside. It's going to dip beneath 37 degrees this week, so I'm going to have to pull my plants back inside. I started.
ZZ. I just threw the ZZ plant in the Google machine here.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool looking. $76 for a small plant. That's not a good deal, but
No, I pay way
looks
less
like there's
than
some
that.
better ones here.
Or
It's a
starting
cool
from
plant.
seed.
Yeah, I could probably do this plant.
It's great. It's just it's in my shower, so I don't do anything to it. It gets no natural light. I don't even water it. It just collects like the air from the shower, and it lives. And it's like sprouted new growth and everything.
That's
amazing.
cool.
But I think what it's going to be, I think it's because it's stuck in my head for another reason. But I think right now the plant of the week is going to be basil. And
Okay.
not only, I mean, it's so amazing because obviously it smells amazing, number one. It grows really well. And did you guys know you have to wake it up? Did you know this?
I did not.
You have to wake it up. So if you take a basil leaf off the plant, you take it off, put it in your hand, and then smack it like that. Just you can do a closed palm. Smack it and then smell it. Like smell it before and then smell it after. After you wake it up and you smell it, it's like 10 times because it like cracks the like whatever the chemicals are inside, and it makes it smell like way better. You're supposed to do it before you put it in food and whatever. Anyway, amazing. Put obviously sauce, put it on a lot of dishes. But here's why.
There's your fact of the day, folks. Wake up the basil.
Yes. And for those that don't know, I mean, obviously a national trivia champion. So we may do a question section, and we'll do trivia questions on this for our guests. That might be an option.
For our guests, yeah, I'm not answering much trivia.
No, for our guests. I want to see what they know.
Yeah, that's fine.
But anyway, the reason. So Peppa Pig. Are you familiar with this program?
I know of Peppa, yes.
So did you know they're British?
I did know that, yes.
Okay. So despite me calling myself a genius on this podcast twice and also a national trivia champion, I didn't know that like these sayings, when you say, oh, tomato, tomato, and that kind of stuff, I didn't know who said tomato. I'm like, no one in the world says tomato. It's the British people do it. The British say tomato.
Did not know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So I hear it all the time on Peppa Pig, and then they call it basil, they call it basil.
I did know that. I've heard the basil before.
So now, two things. One, G's running around here saying, oh, it's basil, it's basil. I'm like, no, it's basil. It's basil. Don't call it basil. And she calls our yard the garden because they call their yards gardens. So she's learning all this British stuff, and she's going to sound insane. Well, the problem is our friends know what she's talking about, though. So our youth is now just going to be British, I guess.
Wow. That's an international takeover. Look at that little
That's the
little
Beatles.
plan they're working
That's what
on.
the Beatles did. This is the next British invasion. It's
Did
Peppa
you just
Pig.
compare Peppa Pig to the Beatles?
Yeah, but it's bigger. Peppa is bigger than the Beatles because they're in the heads of people that can't even make a decision if they want to listen to it or not. This is just what's in front of them, and they have millions of streams, and it goes on and on. The episodes are short, so you see him a billion times. Even Enzo's too, and he's like he knows what words coming next. He'll say it, and then he'll say it on the screen. I'm like, he's brainwashed. He's already brainwashed. Their Peppa Pig is bigger than the Beatles.
Folks, there's some of the hot takery you can expect here on Sold Out.
And speaking of sold out, that's all the time we have. I mean,
That's it.
We're on
We're
our
sold
hour
out of
limit.
time.
I think we have to pay money if we go over an hour, which, obviously we're not doing.
We're not going to do that today.
So
Sold out, though.
yeah, thanks for tuning into our first ever episode. It will only get worse. We took 1.5 to 2 years just to come up with this episode, and that's the product you got. So make sure you come back and see what happens the next week, and we will have a guest, obviously, which we'll release pretty soon. But if you didn't already subscribe and follow, this is on YouTube if you're watching the video. Obviously, we're going to be on Apple Podcasts as well, and anywhere you can download podcasts. So make sure you hit that download and subscribe anywhere you can so you get the notification next time we come on. And follow us personally on our own socials. Where can I find you on Twitter?
Twitter, man, what is my Twitter handle? That's a good question. eHoffman21. Follow me on there. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Big frequenter of LinkedIn. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, at Angelo D'Angelo on Twitter, and obviously on LinkedIn as well. I have more connections than Eric, but that's a different story we'll get into later.
Well, I mean, anybody can just click connect on everybody, but
Well, that is a possibility, yeah.
all right.
All right, well, Eric, thanks for coming over to my house virtually
virtually
here. And obviously you'll be in the seat soon enough.
Yeah, hopefully next time, if not soon thereafter. So thanks guys for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.